Lu Ruyan never imagined that her husband could finalize the divorce proceedings alone, without needing her signature. When she saw that emerald green divorce certificate, she found it laughable. She even placed a bet with her best friend and strategist that I wouldn't last 3 days before returning to humble myself before her. After all, everyone knew that Chen Mingchuan loved Lu Ruyan to the point of madness. I was even labeled the #1 lovesick fool in social circles. But what people didn't know was that back then, the reason Chen Mingchuan knelt desperately before Lu Ruyan wasn't because of how deeply I loved her, it was because of the girl who had saved my life in a multi-car pileup. That girl's heart had been donated, and the recipient was Lu Ruyan, the CEO of the Lu Group. To continue feeling the heartbeat of the girl I loved, I began a pursuit that lasted 4 years. Eventually, Lu Ruyan agreed to marry me. But her reason wasn't love, it was because she accidentally saw her white moonlight post a photo of himself kissing another woman on social media, and she married me out of spite. After the wedding, I endured every bit of unfair treatment from her. I didn't utter a single word of complaint even when Lu Ruyan forced me to sleep in the living room. I had only one request, to listen to her heartbeat every day. But on the very day Lu Ruyan was finally prepared to accept me as her true husband, Mingchuan received a phone call. "Mr. Chen, we have made a mistake. The recipient of your girlfriend's heart was not Lu Ruyan, but someone else." A hesitant voice spoke from the other end of the line. Chen Mingchuan remained silent for a long time before responding. "I understand." I hung up the phone. At that moment, the bedroom door was pushed open violently. Lu Ruyan rushed in with a look of extreme anxiety, grabbing my hand the moment she saw me without offering a single word of explanation. She forced me into the car, and the vehicle sped down the road. A few minutes later, the car stopped in front of a hospital. After clarifying the situation, I learned that her white moonlight, Xiao Hao, had been in a serious accident and needed an emergency blood transfusion, and my blood type happened to match his. I stopped abruptly and turned to look at Lu Ruyan. "I can donate the blood, but I want you to answer one question." Lu Ruyan's face was a mix of worry and impatience, assuming I wanted to ask about her relationship with Xiao Hao. "The matter between me and Xiao Hao, I'll explain later." Unexpectedly, I shook my head. "It's not about that. 4 years ago, when you underwent heart transplant surgery, what was the name of the donor?" Hearing my question, Lu Ruyan frowned. "I only know the person's last name was Qi." That was a completely different name than I had expected. Clearly, there had been a misunderstanding. I nodded without asking further, turned around, and walked into the blood donation room with the nurse. For some reason, watching my retreating back, Lu Ruyan suddenly felt a sense of unease. As I stepped fully into the room, she couldn't help but speak up. "Why are you asking about this?" My expression didn't change at all, as if this were just a routine matter. "Just to confirm something." "Confirm what?" "To confirm that I don't need you anymore." During the blood donation, Mingchuan used his other hand to text his lawyer, "Please prepare a divorce agreement for me. I want a divorce." When the donation was finished, I walked out leaning against the wall, feeling slightly dizzy. I saw Lu Ruyan tightly holding the hand of Xiao Hao, who had just been wheeled out of the operating room. She whispered something to him, never once glancing at her husband from beginning to end, let alone realizing that I had quietly departed. Back at the villa, I, who for years had maintained a calm face against every mockery and ridicule, involuntarily felt my eyes grow red. I murmured, "Without her by my side, I really can't do anything." Tears fell drop by drop onto the floor. Why hadn't I noticed something was wrong? She loved me so much, but that heart had never beaten for me. I let out a cold, soft laugh. "It doesn't matter. We will meet again soon." The next day, Lu Ruyan still hadn't returned home. I washed my face, changed my clothes, and went to see the lawyer. Sitting across the desk, a divorce agreement was already laid out before me. "Mr. Chen, as long as both parties sign this agreement, followed by a 1-month reconciliation period, the divorce can be finalized." Hearing the lawyer say this, Mingchuan thought of Lu Ruyan, who hadn't even come home today, and asked, "Can I sign on her behalf?" "Mr. Chen, that is absolutely not allowed." I gave a faint smile. "She wants a divorce too, she just doesn't have the time to come here. I'll just sign for her. If you don't believe me, I'll call her." With that, I took out my phone and dialed Lu Ruyan's number. Without any greeting, I spoke directly. "I have something I want to discuss with you." Before I could finish, the other end interrupted. "I'm not free. Just do it yourself, no need to discuss." As soon as she finished speaking, I heard a man's voice coming from her side. I recognized it without hesitation as Xiao Hao's voice. Ruyan, the medicine is too bitter. Can I not take it? I looked at the lawyer. Hearing this, the lawyer also recognized the other party's indifferent attitude and finally gave a reluctant nod, allowing me to sign on her behalf. I breathed a soft sigh of relief and signed Lu Ruyan's name on the divorce agreement. Stepping out of the lawyer's office, I gently swiped my finger across the phone screen and booked a flight to Haicheng, departing in 1 month. Lu Ruyan returned home a week later. It was late at night when she arrived, bringing the outside chill into the room. I was sleeping fitfully and didn't pay much attention until the side of the bed dipped slightly and her arm naturally wrapped tightly around my waist. Only then did I fully wake up. I pushed her away and shifted to the other side of the bed. This was the first time Lu Ruyan had been rejected by me. Her face showed a momentary shock, and a second later, she frowned. Don't you need to hear my heartbeat every night to fall asleep? In 3 years of marriage, I had rarely demanded anything from her, but even so, she had agreed to the one thing I asked for, to allow me to lean against her and listen to her heart every night. I once asked her, "Why did you agree to let me do this?" Under the moonlight, her eyes had sparkled, full of tenderness and affection. "Because I like hearing your heartbeat. In the future, can I keep listening to your heartbeat to sleep like this?" Perhaps because of that look full of emotion, I couldn't refuse, and the habit had continued until now. As long as I was home, I would definitely lean against her, pressing my ear to the position of her heart. But now, after a moment of daze, I shook my head. It's not necessary anymore. I turned over, facing away from her. Under the moonlight, my shadow stretched out dimly. I felt her eyes watching me intently. This was the first time I hadn't leaned on her like that, yet she wasn't happy. She clearly didn't like me, so she should have felt relieved that I was no longer clinging to her. But in my own heart, I still felt a void, as if something familiar was missing. I comforted myself that perhaps I was just used to the feeling of her holding me tight. I woke up late the next day. When I went downstairs, I was surprised to find that Lu Ruyan hadn't left yet. I couldn't help but ask, "Are you not going to the hospital to visit Mr. Xiao today?" If it were before, she might have felt annoyed, but this time she explained patiently. "Xiao Hao is just a friend. He just returned to the country and had an accident, so I looked after him a bit more, but he's been discharged now." After saying that, she paused for a moment and added, "Didn't you want me to take you to watch the sunset before? I haven't spent time with you lately, so to make it up to you, I'll take you today." "No need." I smiled faintly. Now that the truth was confirmed and the divorce was imminent, I didn't intend to do such meaningless things anymore. But she had already arranged everything. The car was waiting outside. Being pulled into the car, I just sat there quietly without further protest. The car sped toward the outskirts and soon arrived at the destination. When we reached the mountain peak, Lu Ruyan's phone rang. She picked it up to answer, and the screen flashed the 2 words Xiao Hao, which I couldn't help but notice. She answered the phone. I didn't know what the person on the other end said, but when she hung up, she only hesitated slightly before heading back to the car. Before leaving, she left one sentence. "Wait for me, I'll be right back to pick you up." She said that, but I waited and waited, until the sun had completely set and the sunset glow had faded, and she still hadn't returned. I couldn't call a car on the mountain, and I didn't call Lu Ruyan to ask if she intended to come back. I simply began to walk down the mountain by myself in silence. The mountain was very high and the road was steep. Even though it wasn't a muddy dirt path, by the time I reached the foot of the mountain, my feet were rubbed raw with blisters. Just as I took out my phone to call a car back to the villa, I received a message from one of Lu Ruyan's social circle friends. "Urgent matter, come to iPhone Club." Most of Lu Ruyan's friends looked down on me, the man who had spent 2 years chasing her, only to eventually manage a reluctant marriage. They rarely initiated contact with me, so when I received that message, I didn't hesitate to hail a cab straight to iPhone Club. It wasn't because I was worried about Lu Ruyan. I was simply afraid that if something happened to her during this period, it would interfere with our divorce. However, when I found the private room at the address they sent, a tripwire caught my foot the moment I pushed the door open. I had no time to react and plummeted to the floor, my head slamming hard against a nearby chair. The pain left me dizzy. As I reached up to touch my temple, I felt a warm, sticky liquid on my hand. Blood. The people in the room burst into laughter upon seeing my pathetic state, making no move to stop. A second later, the door was slammed shut, and a bucket of cold water was poured directly over my head from above. The sound of splashing water was drowned out by their mocking jeers. "Ha ha ha. Look at him. Doesn't this miserable wretch look exactly like a dog?" You said it, Sister Ding. That's the perfect comparison. The entire room erupted. Amidst the roaring laughter, every insult and barb was aimed at me. The air conditioning was set to a freezing temperature, and my soaked clothes clung to my skin, making me shiver uncontrollably. Water dripped from my hair, blurring my vision, but I was beginning to realize this was nothing more than a malicious prank. Ignoring the ridicule, I silently wiped my face, showing no emotion. Seeing my lack of reaction, some began to lose interest, but others felt the game wasn't satisfying enough yet. Someone pulled out a phone and played a surveillance video. "Hey, you licking dog. We called you here specifically to give you some good news. Lu Ruyan's White Moonlight is back." I looked up just as the video started. On the screen, Lu Ruyan was kneeling, gently massaging Xiao Hao's ankle. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and care. "See that? Lu Ruyan threw a welcome party for Xiao Hao today. That's why she left you alone on the mountain. Xiao Hao only had a slight sprain, and she was so worried she personally helped him walk. Have you ever been treated like that? Stop taking up space. I suggest you be smart and step aside. It won't be pretty if you're kicked out of the house." The mockery continued without end. I struggled to stand, ignoring the stinging pain in my leg, and looked them directly in the eye. My gaze was deep, my voice calm. "Don't worry, I will step aside. Because I don't love her anymore either." My voice wasn't loud, yet it seemed to freeze everyone in the room. No one spoke. At that moment, the door opened again. Lu Ruyan walked in. Seeing the chaotic room and my drenched state, she immediately frowned, her voice laced with dissatisfaction. "What are you all doing?" No one expected Lu Ruyan to show anger on my behalf. After a few seconds of silence, someone forced a laugh and explained. "Sister Ruyan, we were just playing a joke on Mingchuan. Don't mind us." "You call this a joke?" Her anger didn't soften. Instead, her gaze grew even colder. But what surprised me most was her reaction. Until now, because of Lu Ruyan's coldness toward me, her friends had always looked down on me. I was used to the sarcasm and the cruel pranks. Yet here she was, standing up for me. "We just felt that since you've been looking out for him for so many years, we wanted him to make room so the person you truly love could be happier," one of them said with a smile, trying to diffuse the tension. But before the sentence was finished, Lu Ruyan snapped. "Shut up." Ignoring the surprised looks of those around her, she coldly pulled me up, intending to lead me out of the room. But as she turned, Xiao Hao walked in. Seeing me about to leave, he immediately looked displeased. "Ruyan, the game isn't over yet. I just got back to the country. It's rare for us to have this much fun. Why do we have to go?" Hearing this, the woman who had been so determined to take me away suddenly hesitated. She turned to look at me. "Chuan, can you handle it?" I looked down at myself and suddenly let out a small smile. In my current state, anyone could see I was soaked to the bone, my clothes were clinging to me, and blood was still seeping from my forehead, yet she asked if I could handle it. At this point, I truly didn't have the strength to argue with her anymore. "Keep playing." Those two words were a signal of release. Lu Ruyan breathed a sigh of relief, and the others quickly pulled her down onto the sofa to continue the game. The game proceeded to truth. In the very first round, Lu Ruyan lost. Someone in the group asked, "Sister Ruyan, at what age did you first feel your heart flutter for someone?" As soon as the question was asked, everyone's eyes darted between her and Xiao Hao. Unsurprisingly, she answered nonchalantly, 15. Hearing that number, I couldn't help but think of the records. The year Xiao Hao moved into the villa next to the Lu family, Lu Ruyan was exactly 15. I don't know if she was just unlucky today, but she lost the next 2 rounds as well. The questions became increasingly sensitive. "Sister Ruyan, at what age did you have your first erotic dream?" 17. "And who was the subject of that dream?" The final question caused the cheering in the room to grow louder, but this time Lu Ruyan remained silent. As she prepared to give up and take the penalty drink, someone caught her hand, laughing. "Sister Ruyan, if you don't want to say the name, just the first letter will do." Sitting to the side, I watched her finally set the glass down and softly utter a single letter. H. H. Xiao Hao. The meaning of that letter was understood not just by me, but by everyone there. The cheering erupted again. Xiao Hao's face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and smugness. In that noisy atmosphere, he looked up at me with a provocative gaze. "Chuan, sitting alone is boring. Come join the game." Despite his enthusiastic invitation, I didn't refuse and sat down. The game continued, and this time it was my turn to lose. I drew a card and opened it. It read, "Is the person you love most here right now?" "This one is too easy," someone in the group shouted. "Everyone in our circle knows the person Chen Mingchuan loves most is our sister Ruyan." Amidst the chatter, I slowly shook my head. No. As those two letters left my lips, the room fell into a sudden silence. Everyone looked at me with expressions of shock. Even Lu Ruyan, who had always been cold toward me, could no longer maintain her composure. The atmosphere became suffocating. A long while later, someone tried to force a laugh to change the subject, but the incident had ruined the mood for everyone. The gathering ended abruptly. Lu Ruyan didn't say a word, acting as if she didn't care about what had happened. But as soon as we got into the car, she turned to me, her eyes boring into mine. "What did you mean by that answer just now?" I looked at her face and opened my mouth to reply, but she continued. "You're still upset that I left you behind while we were watching the sunset, aren't you?" It was only then that I realized that in her eyes, I would always love her deeply. The thought that I might no longer love her had never even crossed her mind. Therefore, she assumed my answer was just a petty attempt to make her uncomfortable. But I no longer wanted to explain. Let her think what she wanted. Seeing my silence, Lu Ruyan took it as a tacit admission. The unease in her heart settled slightly. After a moment, she spoke. "The weather hasn't been great lately. I'll take you to watch the sunset again next time." I gave a casual nod as a response. But only I knew for certain that there would be no next time between us. The car soon stopped in front of the Lu villa. After Lu Ruyan showered, she got into bed beside me. Out of habit, she tried to wrap her arms around me, but once again, I pushed her away. "No need. I don't need to hear your heartbeat anymore. I can sleep on my own now." This was the second time I told her I didn't need to hear her heart. If she had heard this before, she probably would have felt relieved, but for some reason, a surge of irritation rose within her. She didn't want to hear any more and decided to use a kiss to silence me. But as she leaned in close, I tilted my head away. I kept my eyes closed, my voice weary. "I'm tired. Let's sleep." The proud CEO of the Lu Group, Lu Ruyan, a woman accustomed to having everyone clamoring for her attention, had been rejected repeatedly for the first time in her life. Her face darkened, and she turned away without another word. Early the next morning, she rose and left the villa for the office. I stayed behind, as my injuries had not yet healed. After lunch, my phone suddenly rang. It was her assistant. I picked up, and a frantic voice came through the line. "Sir, Director Lu is feeling pain in her chest, and her medication at the office has run out. Could you please bring some over?" In the past, it wasn't the first time her assistant had asked me directly to bring medicine. In fact, I usually didn't even need a reminder. Whenever her supply ran low, I automatically replenished it. Just hearing that Lu Ruyan was unwell used to drive me into a frantic worry. Anyone looking on could see how desperately I loved her. But this time, I didn't rush. After the assistant finished speaking, I replied slowly. "The villa is too far from the office. Go buy it yourself." The assistant never expected a refusal, her voice filled with surprise and awkwardness. "But I don't know which type to buy. Haven't you always been the one to bring the medicine? Every time Director Lu felt unwell, you were always so worried." Before she could finish, I cut her off. "Not anymore." My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. I recited the names of a few medications and added, "You are her assistant. From now on, handle these matters yourselves." I hung up, leaving the assistant in a daze on the other end. Fortunately, she managed to note down the names and hurried out to buy them. That evening, Lu Ruyan returned to the villa. The moment she entered, she saw me sitting on the sofa, calmly watching television. Her face immediately clouded over, and her voice rose in reproach. "I had heart pain today. Did you not know?" The familiar voice and its accusing tone didn't make me look away from the screen. I didn't raise my head, responding briefly, "I knew." Seemingly stunned by such a blunt answer, her face filled with shock. "You knew, and yet you didn't come? I already told you it's too far." I kept my head down, not looking at her. My voice was as casual as if I were discussing something trivial, like "I'm not hungry, I don't need to eat." She stood there, looking at my jet black hair under the light, her internal emotions complicated beyond words. Chen Mingchuan had truly changed. Previously, even if she had a minor headache, he was more worried than anyone. If this were the past, I certainly wouldn't be this indifferent, acting like a total stranger. Could she still be upset because I walked away while watching the sunrise? Frustration surged within her. She rubbed her temples, trying to restrain herself, unwilling to continue the argument. She changed the subject. Go get ready and change your clothes. There's a family dinner in a while, you're coming with me. Hearing that, I raised my head and looked at her directly for the first time. But there was no joy in my eyes as she expected, only surprise. In 3 years of marriage, aside from the hurried registration of our marriage certificate, she had never given me anything. There was no wedding, and never a meeting with her parents. She had never once brought me to the Liu family's monthly dinner. The reason why? I had discovered it by chance. I still remembered our first wedding anniversary. I wanted to ask if she'd like to celebrate together, but when I went to find her, I accidentally overheard a conversation between her and her parents. Ruyan, you've been married for a year. When do you plan to bring your husband to meet us? We've even prepared an heirloom to give him. Even if the Chun family isn't a match for ours, as long as you can forget Xiao Hao, it's worth it. Through the door, her parents' voices were muffled, but her reply rang out with cold, undisguised clarity. A marriage of convenience. No need for a meeting. Those few words laid bare her attitude toward me. Inside the room, her mother continued. You still haven't forgotten Xiao Hao? I thought getting married would help you forget him. The conversation ended with a sigh from her mother. I had quietly closed the door, acting as if I had never been there. From that day, I accepted that I would never set foot in the Liu family mansion. And now, when everything had come to light and I was preparing to leave, she said she wanted to take me to meet her parents. No need, I shook my head, declining gently. This time, Liu Ruyan could no longer hold back. She frowned, her voice full of irritation. What is wrong with you lately? No matter what I say, you refuse. You weren't like this before. By the end, her voice became agitated. I suddenly recalled that she was right. I used to follow her every whim. After a long silence, still unwilling to reveal too much emotion, I finally agreed to go to the mansion with her. The distance from the villa to the main mansion wasn't far. The car arrived in a short while. The moment I stepped through the glass doors, I saw someone in the living room, Xiao Hao. He was chatting happily with Liu Ruyan's parents. In her mother's hand was an emerald green jade pendant, which she was tenderly handing to Xiao Hao. Seeing this, Liu Ruyan's expression shifted slightly, and she quickly explained. Xiao Hao is a longtime family friend, so he was invited to the family dinner as well. As she spoke, she turned back to look at me, seemingly trying to gauge my reaction. But I just stood there adjusting my cuffs, my expression indifferent, even offering a slight smile. No need to explain to me. My voice was calm. Liu Ruyan didn't expect me to react like that. She was so surprised she didn't know what to say. Just then, Xiao Hao walked over. Ruyan, your father and mother told you to go up to the study. They have something they want to discuss with you. The words she was about to say were interrupted. She merely nodded, intending to take me with her, but Xiao Hao blocked the way. Your parents said only you should go up. As Liu Ruyan's back disappeared around the corner of the hallway, Xiao Hao immediately held up the jade pendant in front of me, dangling it with a boastful look in his eyes. Do you know what this is? This is the Liu family heirloom. Her mother just personally handed it to me. They said that with me back. Ruyan is finally truly fulfilled. Isn't that strange? I only just realized that Ruyan has always liked me. His gaze was pinned on my face, searching for any sign of pain or dissatisfaction, but I remained silent. My eyes didn't even linger on the jade. After he finished, I gave a faint smile and asked calmly, Did you really not know? My unexpected words caught Xiao Hao off guard, leaving him speechless. I continued. You and Liu Ruyan grew up together. The way she looks at you, the feelings in those eyes, anyone could see it. Did you really not know? I emphasized the word really, my gaze meeting his, deep and sharp. Xiao Hao was slightly flustered but quickly regained his composure. He smirked in response. So what if I knew? Yes, I knew Liu Ruyan liked me, but I didn't reciprocate. I like keeping her in a state of unrequited love, making her always think of me. Seeing someone like her, a goddess in the eyes of many, having to circle around me like a dog, isn't that entertaining? Who else but me could do that? He paused for a moment, then continued. But I also understand that every glory eventually fades. I'm done playing now. I plan to accept her. Care to guess what she'll do if I say I'm willing to be with her? Won't she immediately divorce you and throw you away like trash? His provocative words fell on my ears but didn't shake me at all. I simply gave a dull "oh" and stepped past him to leave. Enraged by my complete lack of interest, Xiao Hao reached out to grab me. I quickly dodged. Instead of grabbing me, he ended up snatching the necklace from around my neck, breaking the chain. Looking at the necklace, he grimaced with utter contempt. He threw the jewelry onto the ground, saying coldly, "What is this piece of junk?" A sizzling sound rang out. I turned my head only to see the necklace land in the glowing embers of an outdoor charcoal grill. My expression changed, my pupils constricted, and my mind went completely blank. Without a thought, I lunged toward the grill, ignoring the searing heat of the red-hot coals, thrusting my hand in to search for the necklace. The servants screamed and tried to run over to stop me, but it was too late. Xiao Hao also yelled out in panic. "Are you crazy? It's just an old necklace." The scene turned into chaos. I finally managed to pull the necklace out of the fire, but the pendant had been deformed by the heat. The once shining material was now covered in a layer of black ash, its original shape no longer recognizable. I slumped onto the ground, large tears falling, though I didn't bother to wipe them away. My heart was filled only with regret and heartache. This necklace was my 18th birthday gift from Su Huayu, and now, it was completely destroyed. I carefully tucked the broken necklace into my pocket, my eyes dim and silent, then stood up and walked toward Xiao Hao. Before he could react, I landed a heavy slap across his face. Smack! The strike was powerful enough to leave a clear handprint on his cheek. He stared at me in a daze, unable to believe what had just happened. But my anger wasn't satiated. I swung my arm for another slap, even harder this time. Smack! 2 consecutive slaps left Xiao Hao's face flushed red and his head spinning. I raised my hand for a third, but before I could strike, Lu Ruyan rushed out and shoved me hard, screaming, "Are you insane?" Her voice was a mixture of fury and panic. After screaming at me, she hurriedly turned to check on Xiao Hao, never noticing that I had lost my balance. I stumbled backward and fell straight into the pond behind me. Help! The pond was deep, and I didn't know how to swim. In my panic, I swallowed several mouthfuls of water, my nose and throat burned with pain. The servants shouted in trembling voices, "Mistress, he can't swim." Hearing this, Lu Ruyan's expression shifted momentarily. But after only a second, she coldly turned her face away and refused to look back, her voice firm. "No one is allowed to save him. When he's ready to admit he's wrong, then you can pull him out." With that, Lu Ruyan carefully supported Xiao Hao as they departed, completely abandoning me. Not a single person reached out to help. I sank slowly into the water, nearly failing to surface several times. Amidst the encroaching darkness, the image of Su Huayu appeared in my mind. No. I haven't found the person who actually received her heart yet. How can I die here? With a final surge of will, I used every ounce of remaining strength to scramble onto the bank. But as soon as I escaped the danger, I was completely exhausted and immediately lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. I wasn't sure how many days had passed. Lu Ruyan sat by the bedside, her face grim. "Your phone just received a notification for a flight booking. Where do you plan on going?" At that moment, I found everything laughable. I had just narrowly escaped death, nearly drowning in that pond, but when I woke up, her concern wasn't for my condition, but for where I intended to go. "I'm not planning on going anywhere, I just wanted to go out for a bit," I replied dismissively, unwilling to explain further. Then, I looked her straight in the eye. "Are you here to force me to apologize? I won't do it. If he dares to touch my things again, I will hit him again. It's just a necklace. Is there a need to make such a scene?" Lu Ruyan questioned with a frown. Hearing that, my tears finally broke through, flowing uncontrollably. I choked up, my voice tight in my throat. "There is. That was a gift from the person I love most. I value it more than my own life." I didn't want to hide my emotions anymore, nor did I want to play a part in front of her. But my words caused her expression to change, becoming somewhat unnatural. Her voice softened slightly, and she spoke with a forced tone. "That necklace was just something I bought on a whim. If you like it, I'll give you another one." Hearing this, I was stunned. The only gift she had ever given me in all these years was also a necklace, but it turned out she was mistaken. The destroyed necklace wasn't the one she had given me. "Mingchuan, I'm only being patient this once. Xiao Hao is my friend. If you touch him again, I don't know what I'll do." With that, she stood up without staying a second longer. She left just as the nurses walked in to change my bandages. As they passed Lu Ruyan, the two nurses whispered to each other, Is that the CEO Lou who booked an entire hospital floor to take care of her boyfriend? It was just a few slaps and she's running every possible test. Talk about an exaggeration. Not just that. The nurse in charge of that floor said she's personally applying his medicine and feeding him porridge, pampering him like a treasure. I heard every word they said, but it felt like listening to a story about a stranger. I didn't care at all. After my bandages were changed, I handled the discharge papers myself. For the next few days, Lu Ruyan didn't return home. But I didn't need to worry because every day, Xiao Hao sent me provocative text messages. Lu Ruyan just took me to see the ocean yesterday. We set off fireworks together yesterday. Today she booked the whole amusement park. Every time I read these messages, I merely skimmed through them and let them go, never replying. I spent my remaining time packing my bags and researching the woman who had truly received Su Huayu's heart. Haicheng would be my new beginning. I would start over and return to her side. On the final day of the divorce reconciliation period, I went out to finalize the divorce certificate. When I returned home, I saw Lu Ruyan sitting on the sofa in the living room. Seeing me, her tightly knitted brows relaxed slightly. "Where have you been?" Her eyes flickered with a hint of suspicion. She had been with Xiao Hao these past few days and hadn't expected me to return today. "Why did you come back today? Aren't you busy anymore?" "Why would I be busy?" Her question had been casual, but I didn't expect my face to darken the moment I heard it. I asked back, my eyes full of doubt. "Busy with what?" "Today is our 3rd wedding anniversary." Looking at my expression, which truly didn't remember, she was briefly annoyed. But perhaps thinking of recent events, she restrained her anger and continued. "I've booked a table at a restaurant. Will you come with me?" I intended to refuse, but then I thought of the divorce certificate I had just obtained this morning. Finally, I nodded. Perhaps this was the right time to make the divorce clear. When we arrived at the restaurant she had booked, just as we reached the door, my phone buzzed with a message. I looked down. It was from Xiao Hao. "It's your anniversary today, right? But I plan to be direct with Ruyan today and tell her I'm willing to be with her. Care to guess if you'll be kicked out of the house immediately after I say it?" I just glanced at it and turned off the screen. Those words no longer bothered me, because after today, I had decided to leave. But as I looked up, Xiao Hao was standing right in front of me. "What are you doing here?" Lu Ruyan asked, surprised. Xiao Hao wore an undisguised smile. "I came specifically to find you, Ruyan. There's something very important I want to tell you. Can we speak privately?" Xiao Hao thought he had already won. But to his surprise, after she heard him, she fell silent. Her gaze flickered to me standing behind her before she said hesitantly, "Today isn't convenient. Let's do it another day." The refusal made Xiao Hao's eyes widen in disbelief. He hadn't expected her to reject him, his face filled with hurt, and the rims of his eyes turned red. "Fine. If you won't come with me, then we shouldn't see each other again." With that, he turned and ran, darting into the middle of the street in an instant. Lu Ruyan panicked and was about to call him back when out of the corner of her eye, she saw an out-of-control car hurtling toward Xiao Hao. Her pupils constricted. Without a second thought, she lunged forward to push Xiao Hao out of the way. Crash! A deafening sound echoed. Her blood stained the space before me red. Xiao Hao stood frozen in shock. He could do nothing but scream and cry. I immediately called for an ambulance to take Lu Ruyan to the hospital. When her friends heard the news, they rushed over as well. But aside from me, sitting outside the operating room with blood-stained hands, there was no one else. "How is she? Where's Xiao Hao?" "She's in surgery." As for Xiao Hao, he was crying so much that the doctor got annoyed and kicked him out, I replied calmly. Finally, the surgery in progress light above the door went out. The doctor removed his mask and announced, "The surgery was a success. The patient should regain consciousness tomorrow." Hearing that, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. But considering the cause of her injuries, her friends couldn't help but start gossiping. Back in school, Ruyan used to get into fights for Xiao Hao, and now she almost lost her life for him. Thank God she's okay this time. But did she forget she just had heart surgery not long ago? Since Sister Ruyan literally put her life on the line to save him, I'm sure Xiao Hao will finally agree to be with her. Talk about a blessing in disguise. I listened to their chatter in silence, then turned to leave. But I had barely taken a step when a sharp, annoyed voice rang out. "You licking dog. Where do you think you're going? Sister Ruyan is coming out soon. Aren't you going to take care of her?" I turned my head and realized they were all looking at me with disapproval. I shrugged with a faint, cold smile. We're divorced. Why would I take care of her? My words struck the room into a dead silence. Everyone stared at me, stunned. Ignoring them, I pulled the divorce certificate from my pocket and handed it to the person standing closest to me. I intended to give this to her today, but I didn't get the chance. There's no need to wait until tomorrow. Please pass this along to her for me. Without waiting for a reaction, I turned and walked away. After a few seconds of shock, one of them shouted after me, Chun Mingchuan, where are you going? I let out a short laugh without looking back, leaving them with one final sentence. As you can all see, I'm making room for Xiao Hao. Remember to give them my best. I won't be attending the wedding. Leaving the hospital, I returned to the villa for the last time. Thinking about finally meeting the person who actually received Su Huayu's heart and hearing that familiar heartbeat once more, a corner of my mouth couldn't help but lift. My luggage had been ready for a long time. I grabbed my suitcase and left the villa, taking a taxi straight to the airport without a single backward glance. Lu Ruyan woke up at noon the following day. Her friends and Xiao Hao were already gathered around her bed, joking and teasing. Sister Ruyan, this time you really played the hero saving the damsel. It was the highlight of the day. Xiao Hao must be so moved he'll want to offer himself as payment, no doubt about it. Come on, Xiao Hao, you have to make it up to her. After she saved your life, shouldn't you just marry her? Xiao Hao looked a bit embarrassed by the teasing, yet he was clearly gloating. He looked at Lu Ruyan and spoke with a sincere tone. Ruyan, I truly didn't expect you to do so much for me. Once you've recovered, can we be together? As soon as he finished, the crowd immediately began to chant, be together. Be together. But amidst the noise, Lu Ruyan said nothing. Her eyes scanned each person as if searching for someone, but she didn't see the one person she expected most. Receiving no answer, the teasing gradually died down. Everyone could sense the atmosphere shifting as Lu Ruyan's face grew dark. Sister Ruyan, what's wrong? Where is Chun Mingchuan? Is he not here? She struggled to remain calm, suppressing the rising anger as she asked coldly. Where is Chun Mingchuan? Why isn't he here? No one answered. The prolonged silence caused a sense of foreboding to rise within her. Seeing no response, Lu Ruyan reached for her phone to call me, but at that moment, Xiao Hao spoke up with disdain. We're divorced. What face does he have left to stay here? Ruyan, why are you asking about him? The word divorced hit her like a thunderbolt. Lu Ruyan froze for a few seconds before instantly becoming furious. She shoved Xiao Hao's hand away, her voice laced with indignation. Divorced? Who said I divorced him? The group of friends and Xiao Hao were all stunned. Earlier, when Mingchuan had insisted on the divorce, they had assumed Lu Ruyan was the one who had initiated it. But now it appeared she knew absolutely nothing about it. Xiao Hao, flustered by her reaction, hurried to explain. I didn't say anything wrong. He didn't wait for you to wake up, and he refused to take care of you. He just gave Ding Ziyi the divorce certificate and said that you two were divorced and he didn't want to look after you anymore. If you don't believe me, ask everyone else. As soon as he finished, Ding Ziyi and the others nodded in confirmation, and they produced the divorce certificate I had left behind to show her as proof. But Lu Ruyan still didn't believe it. She said coldly, how could I be divorced and not know a thing about it? This so-called divorce certificate must be a fake. Though her words were defiant, an inexplicable sense of unease was rising in her heart. Lu Ruyan reached for her phone, found Mingchuan's number, and sent a message, come to the hospital immediately. I can act as if this divorce certificate business never happened. She tried to stay composed, telling herself that Mingchuan was just throwing a tantrum like every other time before. But a second later, looking at her screen, a bright red exclamation mark appeared beneath the message. Message failed to send. Lu Ruyan placed a call, but the automated voice informed her that the number had blocked her calls. A surge of fury erupted within her. Caring about nothing else, she ripped the 4-needle from her hand and tried to get up to leave the room. This sudden action threw the room into a panic. Sister Ruyan, what are you doing? Ruyan, you need to rest. But Lu Ruyan ignored the cries, struggling to get off the bed. However, because the accident had left her right leg and ribs unhealed, the moment she stood up, a sharp pain surged through her, forcing her back onto the bed. Despite this, her eyes remained bloodshot as she braced herself to stand again. Just then, the doctor arrived for room rounds and managed to stop her, immediately checking her wounds and ordering the nurse to insert a new 4. The doctor couldn't hide his irritation and scolded her. You were in a serious accident, nearly lost your life, and you've barely woken up and you're already trying to run around? You even pulled out your four. Do you have a death wish? Don't you know an injury this severe requires at least 100 days of rest? And the rest of you, you know the patient has a heart condition, so why are you agitating her like this? After finishing his instructions, the doctor shook his head and left the room after telling everyone to monitor her carefully. Inside the room, Lu Ruyan's breathing was heavy, her eyes full of anger and dissatisfaction. She still couldn't believe Mingchuan would actually dare to block her number. As for the divorce, she didn't believe a single word of it. She remembered clearly how madly Mingchuan loved her. How could he possibly really divorce her? Thinking of this, her emotions gradually stabilized. She reached out toward Ding Ziyi, who immediately understood and handed her the divorce certificate. Looking at the paper in her hand, she wanted to laugh coldly. It's a very convincing forgery. But I never signed a divorce agreement, nor did I ever go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. How could he possibly get a divorce all by himself? Meanwhile, Xiao Hao stood by her side, completely ignored. Watching this scene, his heart was filled with jealousy. He gritted his teeth in resentment. It's all Chen Mingchuan's fault. If he hadn't started this divorce nonsense right now, how could Ruyan be so distracted? He tried to regain her attention, his voice dripping with grievance. It's just a piece of paper, what's there to look at? If he wants to leave, let him leave. You still have me here, I'll always be by your side. In the past, if she had heard those words, Lu Ruyan might have immediately been overjoyed, turned her back on Mingchuan, and agreed to be with Xiao Hao. But now, she felt no joy at all. She only stared at the divorce certificate in her hand and couldn't help but sneer. It looks real enough, but without my signature and without me going to the bureau, how could Chen Mingchuan possibly divorce me on his own? How could this certificate be real? Lu Ruyan didn't answer Xiao Hao, she only lowered her voice, muttering resentfully as if issuing a personal challenge. I want to see if he's really that stubborn. If you've got the guts, then don't you ever come back. Though her voice was very low, everyone in the room heard her clearly. They all tried to soothe the tense atmosphere. Chen Mingchuan loves Sister Ruyan so much, how could he really leave? I bet he won't last more than 2 weeks before he comes back. 2 weeks? You're too timid, I bet 1 week. I'll bet 3 days. The noisy bickering unintentionally calmed some of the unease in Lu Ruyan's heart. She casually tossed the divorce certificate aside, thinking to herself, he's probably just acting out and being jealous because of Xiao Hao. This time he even faked a divorce certificate to scare me. Does he think that'll make me give in? Not a chance. Thinking this, she picked up her phone and made another call. Help me investigate where Chen Mingchuan's divorce certificate was issued. She planned to wait until she had proof before confronting him. She set the matter aside for now, but in her heart, she already had a plan to deal with him after he returned. Her group of friends also tactfully stopped mentioning Mingchuan, simply waiting for the moment he couldn't take it anymore and came back so they could mock him. But day after day passed, 3 days, a week, then 2 weeks, and even a month went by, yet he still hadn't appeared. Lu Ruyan's expression grew uglier by the day, but those around her tried to talk about other things to distract her. Xiao Hao was by her side every day, taking care of her so devotedly that others were envious. But the recipient of that care didn't seem happy at all. In her heart, instead of feeling the bliss of being with Xiao Hao, her entire mind was constantly occupied by Mingchuan. Initially, she was confident he would return. But gradually, that confidence began to waver. By the time she was nearly ready to be discharged, he still hadn't appeared. A sense of doubt arose within her. Could it be that he's truly given up? How is that even possible? At that moment, the phone that had been silent for so long finally rang. She answered it instantly, not even glancing at the screen. A wave of relief washed over her as she spoke in a reproaching tone. Mingchuan, have you finally decided to call me? Upon hearing that name, everyone in the room, including Xiao Hao, turned their attention toward her. But the joy that had flickered across her face vanished just as quickly, replaced by crushing disappointment. The weak voice of Assistant Wang spoke from the other end. Director Lu, the divorce certificate that Mr. Xiao Hao gave you is real. The lawyer said that during the proceedings, they asked for your opinion and you consented to let your husband sign on your behalf. Nonsense. Lu Ruyan screamed in rage, letting out an involuntary curse that caused Assistant Wang to fall silent on the other end. When did I ever agree to that? She questioned him, but before she could finish, a memory suddenly flooded back. 2 months ago, Mingchuan actually had called her, saying he had something to discuss. But at that time, she was with Xiao Hao, who had just had his accident, so she had simply replied dismissively, "I'm not free. You decide for yourself." Recalling this, her face darkened. Still, she refused to accept it and pressed on. "When was the agreement signed?" 2 months ago, Assistant Wong replied. That answer completely extinguished her last spark of hope. Lu Ruyan sat in silence, her heart a storm of conflict. She didn't know whether to be angry at herself or at Mingchuan for daring to calculate against her like this. Thinking back carefully, it seemed that from that very period, Mingchuan had started acting strange. But why? At that time, Xiao Hao had just returned, and Mingchuan had only been dragged along to donate blood once. Did he decide to divorce just because of that? Moreover, that decision was so firm that he hadn't shown a single regret over the past month. Lu Ruyan felt she had missed something. Her breathing became shallow and rapid, she was restless and unsettled. Xiao Hao noticed the anxiety in her eyes and hurried to comfort her. "Ruyan, it's his fault for not knowing how to cherish you. Don't let yourself get upset. Your heart isn't in good condition, it's not worth it if something happens to you because of this." His words were meant to be soothing, but they acted like a gust of wind clearing the fog in her mind. She suddenly remembered that on the day of the blood donation, Mingchuan had asked her a very strange question. 4 years ago, when you had your heart transplant, what was the name of the donor? "I only know the person's last name was Qi." "I see. Thanks. Why are you asking?" "Just to confirm something." The dialogue from that day replayed vividly in her mind. And from that day forward, Mingchuan, the man who always needed to hear her heartbeat to sleep, suddenly didn't need it anymore. He began to reject her every request. Even his sudden demand for a divorce happened right after that period. "Ruyan, what's wrong?" Ding Ziyi noticed her worsening expression and asked with concern. The question pulled her back to reality. She didn't even dare to think deeper into what Mingchuan was trying to confirm that day. She comforted herself, "It's impossible. He loves me so much, how could there be any other reason? Everyone get out." She suddenly screamed. Although her words were harsh, the turmoil in her heart didn't subside. Ding Ziyi and the others didn't dare linger and hurried out of the room. Only Lu Ruyan and Xiao Hao remained. She turned her head and saw that Xiao Hao's eyes had turned red because of her outburst. She hesitated, suppressing her irritation. Mingchuan was never like this. He never displayed his emotions so transparently over a single comment. He always knew how to maintain his composure. "Go home. I'm tired and want to rest. As for other matters, don't mention them again. I have no intention of divorcing Chun Mingchuan." After speaking, she turned away. Hearing this, Xiao Hao was stunned. "Ruyan, what are you saying? You don't intend to divorce him? Then what was all this time between us?" She closed her eyes and simply answered, "I only think of you as a friend." "A friend?" Xiao Hao let out a bitter laugh. He stood up and shoved his chair back, the sound screeching against the floor. His gaze was pinned on her back, his voice full of resentment. "A friend? I want to ask you, Director Liu, do you treat all your friends this well? When a friend is sick, you drag your husband to donate blood. You personally take care of every little thing for a friend for a week while completely ignoring your husband. To attend a party with a friend, you abandon your husband on a mountaintop. Because of one word from a friend, you let your husband be humiliated without saying a word to protect him. You let your parents give a family heirloom to a friend instead of your husband. Even when your husband almost drowned, you didn't care just to save face for a friend. Risking your life to save a friend?" Xiao Hao's rapid-fire questioning caused Lu Ruyan's face to turn pale. At this moment, she finally realized just how cruel her actions toward Mingchuan had been. In those moments, what had he been thinking? Perhaps she had always assumed he would never leave her, so she felt entitled to treat him however she pleased without restraint. Even when she noticed his change in behavior later on, she only dismissed it as a tantrum and tried to appease him half-heartedly. But Xiao Hao had occupied her heart for too long. Her bias toward him had become a habit that made her unconsciously choose him first. Only now that Mingchuan had truly left did she realize he was the one she couldn't live without. "If I did anything to give you the wrong impression before, I'm sorry." Lu Ruyan bit her lip hard. She felt nothing but a gnawing sense of guilt and apprehension regarding Mingchuan. Her evasive gaze caused Xiao Hao's heart to turn completely cold. He laughed bitterly. "Fine. Very well, Lu Ruyan. I must have been blind to love someone like you." With that, he turned to leave. But at the door, he suddenly turned back, his eyes full of hatred as he looked at her. Lu Ruyan, you really are a despicable woman. You will never be able to be with the one you love. Slam. He threw the door shut. The room fell silent again. Lu Ruyan lay on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to find peace. A long while later, she picked up her phone and called Assistant Wang. Investigate everything about Chun Mingchuan, from the day he was born until now. Do not miss a single detail. She didn't have to wait long. The next morning, Assistant Wang brought the entire file. As she flipped through the pages, her face grew increasingly somber. The records clearly stated, Chen Mingchuan once had a childhood sweetheart named Su Huayu. They were a model couple who had been together for 13 years, only one step away from marriage. But fate was cruel. 4 years ago, a sudden car accident shattered everything. Su Huayu had sacrificed her life to protect Chun Mingchuan. After her death, her parents fulfilled her final wish. They donated her heart. That same year, Lu Ruyan found a matching heart and her life was saved. And that same year, Chen Mingchuan entered her life, beginning his frantic pursuit of her. Everything was clear now. But the person who donated the heart to her was not Su Huayu. Recalling Mingchuan's question about the donor, she understood it all now. He had likely made a mistake during his investigation and believed Su Huayu's heart had been given to her. No wonder he appeared by her side and pursued her so passionately. No wonder he always wanted to lie there and listen to her heartbeat. And no wonder, after learning the donor wasn't Su Huayu, he suddenly became distant and cold. She also remembered the day he and Xiao Hao argued over the necklace. When she called it just an old item, he had broken down crying, screaming that it was a gift from the person he loved most. She remembered his sorrowful gaze when she said she'd buy him a new one. She remembered the game of truth, where he said the person he loved most wasn't there. It turned out he hadn't been lying, it was she who had misunderstood. Lu Ruyan put the documents down, trying to restrain her surging emotions, but eventually, she couldn't stop the rims of her eyes from turning red. Director Lu, are you all right? Assistant Wang asked with concern. She didn't answer, only waving her hand for him to leave. Understanding her sign, Assistant Wang prepared to go, but as he reached the door, Lu Ruyan seemed to think of something and called him back. Find out if the recipient of Su Huayu's heart is currently in Haicheng. Yes, Director Lu. The door clicked shut, and the room immediately fell into a heavy silence. That silence seemed to unearth every suppressed emotion. Lu Ruyan covered her face with her hands, and her stifled sobs finally broke through. She used to think she was the one who could leave at any time. She had pitied Chen Mingchuan because he loved her so madly, thinking he would always be by her side even if they divorced. But now, it was all an illusion. Chen Mingchuan, your acting was truly superb, and you are truly far too cruel. She murmured in agony. Everyone had thought she was the one most loved, she had believed it herself. Over the years, she had relied on his patience, freely doing whatever she wanted, allowing herself to be bathed in a false sense of being cherished. Only to realize, just as she found she couldn't let go, that he had already walked away without a second glance. Suddenly, a sharp ping of a message notification rang out. She wiped her tears and picked up the phone. It was a text from Assistant Wang. Director Lu, that person is indeed in Haicheng. Looking at the message, her final sliver of hope completely vanished. She let out a self-deprecating laugh, and only after a long silence did she reply, book me the earliest flight to Haicheng. Send me all the details on that person. In Haicheng, within the offices of the Fong Group. After a month of relentless effort, I finally passed the interview and officially began working here. Through several carefully arranged chance encounters, I successfully caught the eye of Fong Bangxia, the CEO of the group. What a coincidence today, Director Fong, I smiled, greeting her during another accidental meeting. Despite being fully aware of the setup, Fong Bangxia maintained her polite demeanor and nodded in response. It is a coincidence indeed, but this marks the 10th time we've run into each other this month. Today is June 15th. She looked at me, her smile remaining fixed. Mr. Secretary, I don't know what you're aiming for, but it's quite clear you don't realize that trying too hard often backfires. She lightly stirred the coffee in front of her, her polite smile showing no cracks, yet the gaze she cast over me carried a sense of scrutiny and playfulness. Even though I had been exposed, I felt no shame. I sat down in the opposite chair with a thick skin and laughed. I know, but I still want to do it. As for what I'm aiming for? Naturally, I'm aiming for you, this beautiful, lovely, elegant, and intelligent Director Fong. I raised an eyebrow, observing her from head to toe with an undisguised gaze, my tone intentionally teasing. Director Fong is young, talented, beautiful, and wealthy. You're always so polite even to a secretary like me. Anyone who could be your boyfriend would surely be very happy. My eyes held a hint of arrogance, and my words were soft yet laden with hidden meaning. If it had been any other woman, she might have pointed at my face and cursed me out, but she only gave a soft chuckle. Thank you for the compliments, and thank you for your sentiments. Her voice was gentle, and her words were incredibly attractive, so much so that I momentarily dazed. My gaze lingered a bit too long on her thin, pale pink lips. She pursed them slightly as if a bit embarrassed by my direct stare. Fong Banksia covered her mouth and let out a light cough, forcing me to retract my gaze. People often say those with thin lips are heartless, but I didn't feel that way when looking at her. According to the records I found, the CEO of the Fong Group, Fong Banksia, had been a star child in everyone's eyes since youth. From elementary to high school, she always ranked first, her scores leaving the runner-up far behind. At 18, she began taking over the family conglomerate. By 20, she had turned the Fong Group into one of the leading corporations in Haicheng. But perhaps the heavens were jealous of such talent. An outstanding person like her suffered from severe congenital heart disease. At 22, her condition worsened, but she fortunately found a matching heart for a timely transplant. It was Su Huayu's heart that saved this woman's life. Thinking of this, my heart felt a little lighter. Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary. Fong Banksia's voice suddenly rose, pulling me out of my memories. Looking up, I saw that her ears were slightly flushed. I thought to myself that she looked quite pure. I wonder if Director Fong happens to need a boyfriend by her side? Coming from a prestigious family, the men trying to get close to Fong Banksia were countless, using every trick and style imaginable. But this was the first time she had met someone like me, someone who didn't shy away from stating his goal but was tactful enough not to be annoying. Instead of being bothered, she found it interesting. However, she still gave a blunt refusal. It's not necessary. I wasn't discouraged. This outcome was within my expectations. Fair enough. But if one day Director Fong does need one, could you consider me first? She neither agreed nor refused, simply raising an eyebrow. Why does it have to be me? The question made me pause for a moment, but I quickly regained my composure and smiled softly. There's no reason for liking someone. But if you absolutely must have a reason, I can only say, because it is you, it has to be you. My voice dropped lower, carrying a hint of melancholy. Silence fell over the air, save for the rhythmic sound of the coffee spoon clinking against the cup. A moment later, she stood up. Break time is almost over. Mr. Secretary, you should get back to work. Yes, ma'am. I replied with a bit of playfulness. She didn't turn back, only waving her hand. This coffee is on me. I chuckled and thanked her, my eyes following her retreating back. If she had turned around then, she might have seen a profound spark of nostalgia in my eyes. I lowered my head with a bitter smile. I miss you so much, Su Huayu. Suddenly, a figure blocked my path. I looked up and saw the newcomer. Every emotion in my eyes instantly vanished, replaced by a cold, unwavering stare. It was Lu Ruyan. She had rushed here after tracking my location. Her face was pale, her hair was a mess, and she radiated an aura of exhaustion and frailty. Seeing me looking so neat and poised, her gaze flickered with emotion. Is she your new target, Mingchuan? I didn't realize you were such a good actor. Does she know you only approached her because of her heart? I ignored her hostility and silently finished the last sip of my coffee. I stood up to walk past her, but as I moved, a thin hand suddenly grabbed me. I looked down at her hand clutching me, frowned, and pried her fingers off one by one before brushing off the spot she had touched. The gesture was like a knife to her heart. Without that heart, does even my touch disgust him? I didn't care about her feelings, nor did I bother to say anything more. Chun Mingchuan. Her voice suddenly rose, causing the people around us to turn and look. I let out a helpless sigh and stopped, turning back with a cold, distant gaze. Director Liu, I don't know why you've traveled so far to get here. If there's nothing else, I have to get back to the office. Her eyes turned red like an abandoned puppy, her gaze pleading and her voice choked. Mingchuan, you approached me on purpose for a heart. Now you've discarded me without a second thought? What right do you have to come and go as you please? You even decided on the divorce yourself. I never knew about that agreement, so it's not valid. I gave a short laugh, my lips curling into a sneer. But I did ask for your opinion, and I thought you'd be happy. You blame me for not being decent? Then what about you? Can you claim that when you agreed to marry me, you had no ulterior motives? That you truly loved me? In 3 years of marriage, did you ever once consider me your husband? I looked at her, my voice growing colder. If you truly considered me your husband, were the things you said, the things you did, or the way you flirted with someone else under the guise of friendship appropriate? Anyone in this world can blame me for my initial motives, but you cannot. My words caused her face to turn ash-white. But you chased me for 4 years. We were married for 3. Did you never once feel anything for me? I shook my head, unwilling to lie just to comfort her. Never. She was devastated. Ruyan, my leaving is exactly what you wanted, isn't it? Xiao Hao has agreed to be with you, and we are divorced, so why aren't you with him instead of coming here? The whole world knows of your love for Xiao Hao and that your heart was never with me. That's why your friends dared to insult me repeatedly. Fortunately, the person I love is not you. I don't want to be with Xiao Hao. I only want you, Mingchuan. Su Huayu is dead. Even if her heart was given to someone else, she can't come back to life. I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I'll change whatever you want, just don't abandon me. I had rarely seen Lu Ruyan this weak and desperate. The woman who used to get whatever she wanted was now breaking down in front of me. I hesitated for a fraction of a second, but ultimately glanced at my watch and decided to turn away. I left her with one short sentence. My business no longer concerns Director Lu. If there's nothing else, you should head back early. I opened the door of the cafe and walked away. Lu Ruyan stood there, instinctively placing her hand over her heart. It felt empty, as if she had just lost something vital. 4 p.m., inside the CEO's office on the 23rd floor of the Fong Group. Fong Bangxia had just finished a 2-hour video conference. She rubbed her temples in exhaustion and pressed the call button on her desk. 2 minutes later, I walked in carrying a cup of warm milk. I placed the milk in front of her, rotating the cup so the handle faced the right direction before gently pulling my hand away. Out of habit, she picked it up and took a sip without looking. The smooth liquid and its mild sweetness spread through her mouth, causing her to look down. The cup contained only pure, fresh milk. Secretary Chen, I called for coffee, didn't I? She set the cup down. Her voice didn't betray any dissatisfaction, but her gaze suggested she was considering asking me to replace it. I pursed my lips and gave a slight shake of my head. Director Fong, you've already had coffee today. For the sake of your health, you shouldn't have any more right now. Hearing her health mentioned, Fong Bangxia paused for a moment before letting out a soft chuckle. In the past, her secretaries only knew how to follow her orders. None had ever dared to overstep and nag her. Yet I, someone who had been working for her for less than a month, dared to manage her. She waved it off without much thought, signaling for me to leave, though she kept the cup of milk. As I left the room, she watched the door and lightly stirred the milk, her gaze pensive. Chun Mingchuan, who exactly are you? Why did you approach me? Laid out before her was the resume I had submitted when applying, brought to her by an assistant half an hour ago. As she flipped through the pages, she discovered I held a master's degree from Tsinghua University, one of the most prestigious schools. With such credentials, finding work should not have been difficult, yet my record was completely blank from graduation until now. This meant that this position at the Fong Group was my first official job. The more she read, the more curious she became. The file mentioned a college romance between me and a woman named Su Huayu. Both were outstanding students, but the name Su Huayu was entirely foreign to her. She pondered for a moment before picking up the internal phone to instruct her assistant to investigate the woman named Su Huayu and her relationship with Chun Mingchuan. The assistant worked quickly. In less than an hour, a new folder was delivered. Upon opening it, her eyes landed on a small line of text beneath a photograph, subject deceased 4 years ago. She stared at those words for a long time. Could someone who loved so deeply really love another so easily in such a short time? If I had truly forgotten the past in a fit of passionate love, then why the divorce after 4 years and my sudden appearance at her doorstep? Fong Bangxia never imagined that someone could love so profoundly that every remaining piece of the deceased would become a goal to be pursued. Regardless, I passed my 3-month probation and officially stayed at the Fong Group. She decided to keep me by her side to uncover my true objective. In the following months, I appeared beside her at every event, large or small. Finally, at a gala 4 months into my employment, I unexpectedly ran into Lu Ruyan, the ex-wife I hadn't seen in half a year. She had returned to her image of a woman radiant as a halo, but her aura was sharper than before. The friends who used to constantly surround her were nowhere to be seen. Her eyes scanned the crowd, finally stopping on me, standing behind Fong Bangxia. But very quickly, she feigned as if she had never seen me, her expression returning to a neutral mask. She didn't seek to provoke me, and I enjoyed the silence. Fong Bangxia always traveled with a secretary and an assistant. Since I arrived, the secretary position had never changed. Nevertheless, most professional tasks were handled by the assistant. I seemed only to be there to eat, drink, and socialize, as if she only brought me along to observe me. I wasn't conceited enough to think she valued me. It was clear she was on guard. But I didn't care. If she could fall for me according to plan, that would be ideal. If not, I had enough patience to stay by her side and prevent her from loving anyone else. Leaning against a railing, I watched Fong Bangxia on the ballroom floor below. She held a glass of juice and chatted with the guests, her face glowing. I thought to myself, it's fine, I can wait. Suddenly, a long shadow fell behind me. I turned my head alertly and found Lu Ruyan standing there. It's been half a year. It seems you haven't made much progress, have you? I frowned and responded coldly. Whether I've made progress or not is hardly any concern of yours, Director Lu. The words were sharp and thorny. Lu Ruyan had never seen me like this, from someone always obedient to someone cold and distant, and now sharp enough to keep others at arm's length. She gave a self-deprecating smile. How good is she? Is she worth changing yourself for, staying beside someone who doesn't love you, and enduring this for so many years? She, the person she alluded to, was someone we both understood clearly, though neither said the name. The atmosphere between us grew heavy. Despite being the one who initiated the conversation, Lu Ruyan now looked anxious. She feared I would walk away, and she also feared my answer. Finally, I drained the glass in my hand and looked up at her, my voice laced with bitterness. She is worth it. She is the most wonderful person in the world, the person who loved me most. Su Huayu. My voice became increasingly choked with emotion. She was the only person who loved me for who I am. Aside from my parents, no one can replace her. If not for that accident, we would have been husband and wife. The tears fell relentlessly. I could no longer restrain myself and broke into a sob. Lu Ruyan hadn't expected a casual question to cause me to lose control so completely. In the 4 years I spent with her, I had only lost my composure once, when the necklace was destroyed. She cautiously reached out to wipe my tears. Seeing that I didn't resist, she fought an internal battle until her emotions overrode her logic, and she gently pulled me into an embrace. Perhaps when a person is at their weakest, they easily let others approach. At that moment, I didn't understand why I didn't refuse, even letting my tears soak into her dress, leaving a dark damp patch. The light from the window cast a warmth into the room, chasing away the gloom. I cried until I was spent, allowing myself to slowly calm down. Pulling away from Lu Ruyan's arms, I tilted my head back to force back the remaining tears. My eyes were still rimmed with red, and without a word of farewell, I turned and headed downstairs. Lu Ruyan didn't stop me, she only stood there silently watching my retreating back. No one noticed that a camera behind us had recorded the entire moment. In the ballroom, the assistant's phone chimed with a message. He looked down at it, then leaned in close to Fong Bangxia's ear and whispered a few words. Fong Bangxia gave a slight nod. Holding the orange juice in her hand, she lightly pressed it to her lips. The sweet and sour flavor spread. It was her favorite. She rarely drank alcohol due to her congenital heart condition, usually substituting it with juice. But this time, she suddenly remarked, "This orange juice is quite boring." The assistant was busy with tasks and didn't pay much attention. When he looked back, he was shocked to see Fong Bangxia walk over to the champagne tower and pick up a glass. For someone who had never touched alcohol, even the lightest champagne was enough to make her feel unwell. She downed half the glass quickly and immediately began to choke, coughing repeatedly. At that moment, a long-fingered, powerful hand snatched the glass from her without ceremony. Before Fong Bangxia could react, the person drained the remaining alcohol, placing his lips exactly where hers had just been. The corners of her eyes were red from coughing, and her brows furrowed as her gaze met the still teary eyes of Chen Mingchuan. She dazed for a moment, but then a powerful surge of irritation flared within her. "Aren't you still pining for your ex-wife? You were just upstairs crying and hugging her, so why are you here managing my business? Do you find being with me so miserable that you have to cry?" Chen Mingchuan didn't understand her train of thought. As soon as he had come downstairs, he saw Fong Bangxia carelessly drinking and failing to take care of herself. He frowned and stepped quickly in front of her as she reached for another glass. "Director Fong, you are not a child. By what right do you manage me? This is my body, I'll decide for myself." He answered calmly, his voice not too loud. I am your secretary, and I am the one pursuing you. Why shouldn't I manage you? Isn't this what you've tacitly permitted? Seeing his tone soften, she only watched him silently, her lips slightly pursed. In his hand, the glass still bore the clear mark of her lipstick. Realizing this, her ears turned red. Thinking of the indirect shared glass, she couldn't help but feel flustered. She noticed her lipstick color on his lips, a shade of red that usually didn't suit men, yet it looked strangely seductive against his cold, pale skin. His gaze met her lips, making her feel self-conscious. She turned her head away and whispered softly, Director Fong. She didn't answer, but her heart beat faster with every second. You're drunk. Let me take you to a lounge first. In a corner of the hall, the assistant watched the development in a daze, then looked down at the surveillance video he had just received on his phone. He suddenly hesitated. Should I send this video to the director? Seeing Fong Bangxia leave the hall with Chun Mingchuan, the assistant thought for a while and ultimately decided to send the video to her inbox. Every time she went out with Mingchuan, the primary task she gave him was to monitor his every move closely. Chen Mingchuan brought her to a pre-booked hotel room, carefully wiping her face and hands, and thoughtfully placed slippers at her feet. Seeing her just staring at him without moving, he let out a helpless sigh and lifted her feet to help her change into the slippers. Can you shower by yourself? He tried asking. She seemed to have forgotten that the drunkenness was just an excuse to leave. She just stared at him blankly without responding. He went into the bathroom to run the water, checking the temperature to ensure it was warm enough. As he nudged her toward the bathroom, he didn't stay long, only saying, I'm going out to find Assistant Chun. Just as he opened the door, he met the eyes of Assistant Chun standing in the hallway. He gave an awkward smile. Director Fong is drunk. I've run the water, now I'll go find. Before he could finish, someone grabbed his wrist tightly. A strong force pulled him back into the room, and the door slammed shut right in Assistant Chen's face. The assistant shrugged and muttered to himself, should I be worried about the director's virtue? Then he walked away. Inside the room, Chen Mingchuan was pinned against the door. Fong Bangxia's hot breath brushed against his neck, the distance so close he could hear her every breath. Her gaze was sharp, carrying a hint of inquiry. Who is the person truly in your heart? How much of what you say is the truth, and how much is a lie? The sudden question made my heart sink, and a flicker of confusion crossed my eyes. Seeing my panic, Fong Bangxia let out a soft, mocking laugh. As I regained my composure and tried to maintain a natural tone, she moved even closer. I like you. The person in my heart is you, I said softly, my gaze steady and resolute. Fong Bangxia curled her lip, her eyes brimming with suspicion. She whispered as if to taunt me. Did you say these same words to Lu Ruyan? Hearing the name Lu Ruyan, I froze. But instead of showing embarrassment, I gave a relaxed smile. Director Fong, are you jealous? I'm actually glad to hear that, because it proves you've been paying attention to me. My eyes sparkled with a sincerity and deep affection that made it difficult for anyone to look away. Had Fong Bangxia known nothing, she might have been enchanted by that look. But now, her heart was filled only with complex, conflicting emotions. Every action of Mingchuan's, from investigating her preferences to always appearing whenever she needed him, had left Fong Bangxia utterly confused. This man had done so much for her, yet every time he did one more thing, her heart only ached more. She pushed me away. The last light in her eyes died out, leaving behind a dark void like a stagnant lake. I know you don't truly love Lu Ruyan, Fong Bangxia whispered with a bitter smile. But you don't love me either. From beginning to end, there has only ever been one person in your heart, hasn't there? That person is Su Huayu, your childhood sweetheart of 20 years. She continued, her voice choking up. From the time she was little, she always said her only wish in life was to marry you. But 4 years ago, she died to protect you. After she passed, her heart was donated to me. You say you love me, but look closely. She and I are nothing alike except for this heart. There is no other connection between us, Mingchuan. For a man like you, should I praise your lifelong devotion, or should I curse your heartlessness? I never expected to hear the name Su Huayu from Fong Bangxia's lips. As she exposed the truth without hesitation, my face turned ashen, and a ringing sound echoed in my ears. I could only open my mouth, but the words that came out were so weak they were barely audible. I'm sorry. Mingchuan, I don't need your apology, but I hope that from now on, we never see each other again. Having said her piece, Fong Bangxia watched as I slumped against the door, tears streaming down my face. Her own heart tightened, She couldn't tell if the pain belonged to her or to the heart that once belonged to Su Huayu. But in the end, she compromised. She gently embraced me, rubbing my back until my emotions finally settled. After doing all this, she turned to leave. Standing at the threshold, she tilted her head without looking back and sighed. She is dead, but she isn't the only person in this world who loves you. You should step out of your closed-off world. Her words fell, and she didn't linger a moment longer, nor did she look back at me again. As it turned out, Fong Bangxia hadn't deduced the entire truth on her own. Initially, she didn't believe I truly liked her, so she had researched information about me and Su Huayu. When Lu Ruyan suddenly appeared and revealed everything, Fong Bangxia still didn't believe her outright. She had hoped I would deny it as flatly as I had denied my feelings for Lu Ruyan, but I hadn't. In the hotel room, Fong Bangxia turned off the lights before leaving. The room plunged into darkness. I sat on the bed, listening to her footsteps fade away. A sense of emptiness consumed me. Had I truly been wrong? I lay down on the large bed, feeling utterly exhausted. Lu Ruyan and Fong Bangxia were both right. Su Huayu was dead. No matter how much I chased, the person I found would always be Fong Bangxia, not the girl I loved. I drifted off into a long, deep dream. In the dream, I returned to 5 years ago. On Su Huayu's birthday, I knelt on one knee to propose to her. Her eyes were as bright as the stars. Su, since I was 5 years old, my birthday wish every year has been to make you my wife. I'm 22 now. Can we finally get married? Will you be my wife? Su Huayu nodded vigorously, her eyes brimming with happy tears. I will. We should have been happy. But the dream suddenly shifted. As our wedding day approached, we got into our newly purchased car to go out and prepare gifts. A truck lost control and hurtled straight toward us. In that split second between life and death, Su Huayu only had time to swerve the wheel so that her side took the impact, using her whole body to shield me. The massive collision knocked me unconscious, but Su Huayu remained awake long enough to call for help. Only after she knew I was out of danger did she collapse, never to wake again. When I finally woke up, the only thing I saw was a small urn. In the dream, I saw her again. Su Huayu smiled tenderly, Mingchuan. I burst into tears and held her tight. She comforted me. Don't cry anymore. Our fate in this life wasn't meant to be fulfilled. Let's continue it in the next, okay? In this life, I hope you will be happy, that you will be yourself, and that you won't let the past hold you back anymore. But I want to see you. There are so many things we haven't done. But they aren't you, are they? She patiently soothed me until I gave a small nod. Su Huayu kissed my cheek. Mingchuan, I have only one wish now, that you must be happy. Her figure gradually faded away. I wailed and reached out to hold her, but I only touched empty air. When I startled awake, bright sunlight was piercing through the gaps in the curtains. My pillow was soaked with tears. Only 2 sentences remained etched in my mind, but they aren't you, are they? And Mingchuan, be happy. I wiped my tears and pulled back the curtains. Warm sunlight immediately flooded the room. Yes, aside from Su Huayu, no one could be Su Huayu. I had to live on strongly, carrying her share of life with me. I opened the bedroom door. The person waiting outside startled awake. It was Lu Ruyan. She hadn't slept all night, perhaps out of guilt or fear that I would break down. Mingchuan. I stepped out with a calm but distant demeanor. You were the one who told her about Su Huayu, weren't you? Lu Ruyan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Yes. I didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but I thought Su Huayu wouldn't want to see you living in the past like this forever. I looked at her with a complex gaze. Thank you. But seeing Su Huayu again, even if only in a dream, was the happiest moment of my life. Fong Bangxia and I cannot continue, and there is no need for regrets anymore. I turned to walk away, my heart feeling slightly lighter. For Lu Ruyan, everything had truly come to an end. Let's act as if we never knew each other. I took the elevator down to the hotel lobby. As the doors opened, my eyes met Fong Bangxia's. I pressed the button to close the door and smiled. Thank you, Director Fong, for letting me have the room last night. When you check out, please handle the formalities. I will reimburse the costs. Mingchuan. I'm sorry, I was a bit harsh last night. I shook my head gently. It's not necessary. Director Fong, it's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you, Assistant Chen, for looking after me. I hope our paths cross again. I waved and turned to leave. Outside the hotel, I caught a taxi and quickly merged into the bustling crowd. Lu Ruyan chased after me, but only managed to see the car disappear in the distance. "Don't chase him, he won't come back," Fong Bangxia murmured. Even though she was the one who pushed me away, her heart now felt utterly hollow. I went to the airport, deciding to return home. Ever since Su Huayu passed away, I hadn't returned to that house even once, fearing the memories would overwhelm me. But now, I could face it calmly. When I appeared at the front door, my parents said nothing of reproach, they only held me tight. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." The door next door opened as well. Su Huayu's parents were both surprised and overjoyed. "Mingchuan, you're home. Quickly come inside." Seeing these elders who still treated me like their own child, my heart was filled with both guilt and sorrow. I choked out, "I'm sorry. It was all my fault." Su Huayu's parents tenderly stroked my head, their tears falling uncontrollably. "You silly child, how could we blame you? You are the person our daughter gave her life to protect. You must live well, don't let her down." Those words of forgiveness made me want to cry, but I held it in. Everything would be okay. I would live well, carrying Su Huayu's part with me as I walked through the rest of this life. From now on, the clouds may float so deep they cannot be seen, but your image will be everywhere.